to be sure you're getting the most out of your retirement for all the years of your retirement? That's the primary goal of More Living with Jim Brogan and our Dollars and Cents segment, where we provide you with an important financial tip that will help positively impact the quality of your life in retirement. And now here's Jim with this week's Dollars and Cents tip.
And this week I want to talk to you about mutual funds. You know, mutual funds, very popular investments. A lot of benefits, a lot of bad things about mutual funds, too. It's like anything else. I mean, you know, we got to use our common sense here. Everything has good things and bad things about it. There's no perfect solution out there for your money. Let's talk about mutual funds because they're so popular and some of the potential pitfalls and also how you can use them effectively. I will tell you that as a rule, I'm not a huge fan of mutual funds. Don't get me wrong, we use them a lot in my practice. But to use them effectively, it's not easy. And the reason is most mutual funds, because of the internal fees and charges that they have, there's the management fees. You know, there's a lot of fees in mutual funds that you never see and are not disclosed. And they deal with the turnover fees, you know, when they're buying and selling stocks and bonds. Because of those internal fees and costs, most mutual funds really, if you look at it historically, are pretty average or poor when you consider how they do versus the market and when you consider the risks that you're taking versus the return that you receive. They're really pretty mediocre or poor. However, they offer benefits because there are some great money managers out there that you can get access to. There are you can get in a lot of specialties, but there are a lot of benefits, and you get a lot of diversification with a small amount of money if you use them properly, or with a relatively small amount of money. But you have to know how to use them effectively because most of them are not, in my opinion, going to give you great results. So one is you've got to have great choice. You've got to have access to all the best choices that are out there, 99% of all mutual funds. And the only way you're going to do that, in my opinion, is to have a no-load brokerage account where there's no commissions for buying and selling mutual funds. Because if there are commissions, you're going to load up in one or two mutual fund families. And, here's what I would ask you. Just think about this. There's over 15,000 mutual funds out there. If you're wanting to pick the very, very best you can find, and believe me, in these economic times, you need access to only the very, very best merchandise you can find. If you're going to do that, I mean, just think about this. No matter how good a mutual fund family is, and there are good ones out there, is any one mutual fund family going to have all the best choices in all the different categories you need to be invested in? They're just not. I mean, they may have one or two that are very, very good in their category, but then you have to go to others. Well, when you work on a commission basis, it's difficult to spread your money around. You're actually trained in the industry. People that trade on commissions are trained to put most of your money with one mutual fund family because it gives you breaks on the commissions. So you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. You have access to maybe roughly half of all the funds out there. If you're in a no-load brokerage account, you have access to 99% of the funds that are out there. So that's number one. You got to have great access. But then you've got to be very diligent and only pick great merchandise. The difference in a great fund and a mediocre fund in its category is dramatic if you look at it over a 5 or 10 year period. I mean dramatic. I don't know if you've ever sat down and really looked at that. It's dramatic. So you've got to pick great merchandise, and then you've got to watch it like a hawk. Because one of the risks you face with mutual funds is the management risk. In other words, what if those money managers, they've been great in the past, that doesn't mean they're going to be great in the future. Okay, they could lose their touch, so to speak. And that happens a lot. You see funds that have been great, and then over a 3 or 5 year period, they just become mediocre or even poor. Well, when that happens, those need to be punted and be replaced. Now, I'm not a guy that believes in having a knee-jerk reaction and just punting it because it has a bad quarter or even a bad year, unless it's a really, really bad year. I am a believer, though, that if you see a trend line over several years where it's becoming mediocre or poor, it needs to go and be replaced. And if you're in a no-load brokerage account, you don't worry about the commissions on that. So you can also get mutual funds that you might buy them for a specific reason. reason. They might be in a specific category that you want to be invested in your diversification, but they have what's called style drift. In other words, they drift into a new style. So you've got to watch that kind of stuff. So you've got to pick only great merchandise, but that's looking at the past. That doesn't guarantee the future. And when I say great merchandise, I don't mean over 1 or even 3 years. I mean, I like to look at 5 years or more. It's been great for 5 years. But then you got to watch it like a hawk, because it could turn out to not be as good in the future. It could have management turnover, management risk, all those things. So you can use them effectively, but probably the number one thing, you've got to have great access to the great merchandise. And then, you might sprinkle in index funds too. I'm a big believer you need to consider all that stuff.
And that's our Dollars and Cents segment for this week. You can find this week's Dollars and Cents segment and others by visiting BroganFinancial.com.